Welcome to Cut the BS with Holly and Rachel.
We are here to help you ditch the overwhelm, stop second guessing, and reconnect with what truly fuels your body, your mind, and your life.
No fluff, no filters, just real talk that helps you feel strong, aligned, and unstoppable. Whether you're on a walk, commuting, or sipping your favorite matcha, this is your space. Welcome, everybody, to Cut the BS. My name is Rachel, aka Ray Ray, aka Bon Bon. We're here with another episode for you guys, and with me is my lovely co-host,
Holly, aka Holly.
aka Holly Ramsey.
You said it. Who knows? Will she come out this episode? Probably
gonna
a little
see.
bit with the group fitness topic that we're going to dive into. Maybe a little.
I think.
So this week's episode was inspired by, dare I say, a doom scroll, where we came across some good quality content, though, where this man, giving a man credit, who are we, Rachel? Who are we?
I know. We should get points for that.
Seriously. He seriously made some really great points on just what we think is something really relevant that we see quite often today is this concept of toning. And from there, we were like, oh, all of these group fitness classes promote toning. And we're going to show you guys the clip or let you listen if you're just doing the audio. That's cool too. And then we'll kind of dive into, our thoughts on toning in general, what that actually means, our thoughts, our feelings. Thank God I haven't had 2 shots of espresso today. We're going to be pretty tame when it comes to that word, hopefully. And then we're also going to dive into group fitness. We're not here to shame group fitness by any stretch of the imagination, but there are pros and there are cons. So we're going to kind of dive into what we see on both sides of the coin, if you will. Do you want to get that reel going? Ready.
Muscles can only grow, that's hypertrophy, or shrink, and that's atrophy. So obviously as you get older, you atrophy your muscles, unless you do progressive overload weight training to get them to grow back again. And the physiological process called toning is basically, if you were to try and define it, it is hypertrophy combined with a calorie deficit. So you're growing your muscles and shrinking your body fat. If you do lots and lots of repetitions of the same exercise with low weights, definitely you're not going to get hypertrophy, because you can only get hypertrophy by progressively overloading and increasing the weights and increasing the weights heavier and heavier. And also, definitely, you're not going to lose body fat, because you only lose body fat by reducing your calorie consumption. If you do huge amounts of exercise, you're going to burn maybe 300-400 calories and then get totally exhausted and stop and then be very hungry and eat more.
One of my favorite little things he says in that is, if we can even define it, when he's talking about toning. Because,
Yes.
Rachel, I will never forget when us and our husbands, went bowling and me and Kaylin were sitting there beefing over toning. I was like, toning does not exist. And he was like,
Yes.
yeah, but you know what they mean. Okay, It still doesn't exist.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, and he even says it. He's like, if you can try to define it. Like, we know what people mean when they say, I want to tone. That means I want to lose body fat percentage. They usually don't mean that they want to lose muscle mass. It usually just means like, hey, I want to cut some body fat, which you and I both know happens with a calorie deficit. So you're taking in less than what your body uses. And so then your body uses fat to kind of supplement that energy. And then we reduce the amount of fat that's on our bodies. And I know that he used a couple of sciencey words, like he used hypertrophy. I actually hate that word, but it basically means to grow your muscles. Make it very simple. And I actually hated that word because I couldn't pronounce it for the longest time.
I feel it.
I'm like,
In
why
my
don't we
head,
just
it's
say grow your
hyper
muscles?
and trophy.
But then you have to like mush it together, hypertrophy.
Right.
Like it's just, it's a very hard word to say. But basically it means grow your muscles. And so, he talks about how if you're doing low weights, which we know isn't necessarily in every fitness class, but if you're doing a lot of reps of low weights, like you're not really gonna, it's really hard to progressive overload that because that means that the only way that you would progressive overload is by doing more and more reps. And like he said, at that point, you're doing so many reps. It's going to take you so long to complete. It's not very time efficient. And then you're going to burn, so many calories that you're going to be hungrier and then you're going to eat. So it kind of just defeats the purpose, I think, is kind of what he was alluding to.
Yeah. And something else I think when it comes to toning is yes, you want to lose body fat, but depending on where you're starting, you probably also need to build a little bit of muscle. And you're
Hmm.
not going to build muscle efficiently, I should say, by doing low weight, high reps.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
that's just the reality. Like you said, it's not an efficient use of your time over the course of time, especially.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, Holly, but when I go into the gym, I'm trying to get in and get out. Like, I'm not going in there trying to spend 3 and 4 hours. I'm going in there trying to be out in under an hour if I can.
Most days that's the case for me, for sure.
Yeah. And so I think too, another piece of that might sometimes get missed, and this is something that I hear a lot, is women prefer the lower weights and things like that because they don't want to get bulky, which let me just refrain from the eye roll that is ensuing within me because I understand what they're saying and where they're coming from because we don't want to be bulky and look manly, but I think it's important to note that we don't have the amount of testosterone that men have. And so the idea of us getting bulky and like big, broad, muscly is not really in our DNA. I mean, you would have to be taking a lot of supplements and growth hormones in order to make that happen. And those
Mhm.
people that we see on the internet that do look like that are taking those things.
Yeah, and it's not an overnight thing, number 1. It's definitely not happening within your first 3 years of lifting if you're doing just, like, small progressive overload, not taking anything, like, that's just not gonna happen within especially those first 3 years. Um, and it's not going to happen on accident also. That I think that's my biggest thing I try to tell people is you don't accidentally get bulky. And at the same time, I will give a little bit of credit because I think not to like hype myself up, okay? I say this in the most humble way possible, I swear to God. But when I like took like that back day we posted, or I think it was primarily back, upper body that we posted of mine the other day, I think to some women, I look bulky. My back is more built. Again, I say that very humbly. I think to some women, they're like, that's exactly what I don't want to be. And that's okay. That's your preference. That's your choice. But I don't think like as a fitness community, we would define my back as bulky. Does that make sense? Like I think lifestyle versus truly the people like in the fitness realm, we define things a lot differently.
Absolutely. And I mean, again, my opinion is not the opinion of everyone, but I definitely don't think you look bulky. I thought you looked lean. I think we could see some muscle definition, which I mean goals, honestly. I mean, and
Thank you.
y'all heard me voiceover. This was my voiceover was the first time seeing it. And so I'm like, oh, okay, let me go do some upper body right now. let me get
Let
let me
my
get
girl
like
hit a
Holly.
bicep curl.
Years. Yeah, I mean, everyone's definition is it's subjective, right? So everyone's
Right.
definition is going to be a little bit different, and I think that the different preferences that women tend to have of what their definition of bulky is and what they do want and don't want is fine. But I think, again, like we said, the misconception is that you're going to be really big, bulky, like those bodybuilder women that we see on the internet, and that's just first of all, that takes way more work than you're doing. And I say you as like a general term. And again, it comes with the addition of like growth hormones, some supplementation that isn't naturally there in your DNA.
So, Rachel, what are your thoughts on how women can progressively overload without having to fear getting bulky? How can we
Yeah.
pick up more than a 10-pound dumbbell for all of our movements across the board on upper body day? Women, let me just tell you something right now. You should never be grabbing one weight and going to a corner. You should be doing enough of a different movements that certain things are going to require heavier or lighter weights. One little dumbbell in a corner, not going to cut it in my professional opinion.
I mean, I think it kind of goes back to muscle memory. Like your muscles are ever adaptive. Our bodies are wonderful. And they can adapt to basically any kind of stress that we put them under. And so if we're lifting 10 to 15 pounds, we're creating that little bit of stress for our body to lift that weight, to push that weight, to pull that weight, whatever it is that we're doing with the 10 to 15 pounds. Muscles are going to adapt. Obviously, we're going to have our muscles grow and adapt to that weight that we're pushing. But then at that point, our muscles have adapted, right? We're no longer getting sore. Our muscles can push that weight easily. If we're not progressing forward, if we're not increasing the weight that we're lifting, if we're not increasing the reps that we're lifting, the difficulty, then we're going to kind of be at a plateau. And so you can't do that for really more than 4 to 6 weeks without progressing in order to continue to get better and continue to build muscle and to tone.
Yeah. I think another thing, as women, you probably want your waist to look little, right? Like we want to
A
look
wisp of
littler.
air.
That's
Mhm.
like a very feminine-esque look to a lot of women.
Right.
Again, you're entitled to do what you want to do. I know that's my preference. I want my waist to be cinched. Call
Mhm.
the police because she's missing.
Yeah.
If
Right.
you have a bigger back, not that it has to be massive, but if you have a bigger back, it gives that illusion that your waist is smaller. So
Yeah.
sip on that.
Just sip the tea. Sip the tea. We want the police and the FBI and the CIA all out searching for our waist. Okay?
Yes.
And if that's not your preference, totally okay. Maybe you could join the hunt in searching for our waist, you know?
Exactly.
Um,
So moral of the story, I think, is that you're not going to get bulky overnight.
right.
You need to pick up more than a 10 to 15 pound dumbbell over the course of time. Now, that said, do I still lateral raise a 10 to 12 pound weight? For sure. Because why? Why are those so difficult? I feel like I've
So
been on
difficult.
10 pounds for 12 years.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna just chalk it up to the fact that our deltoid muscles are just small. Like they're not that big. Mine are
That's
about
true.
that big.
I
Mine are
like
about
that.
yay
I like
big.
that.
And so, I feel like anything upper body, because we don't have that excess testosterone to help us, push that upper body weight more, and because we're typically smaller in frame, it's going to be harder. Okay, it's going to be harder.
Fair.
And I feel you on the lateral raises and the front raises. Um, that's a slower progressive overload because your girl struggles.
For real. Yeah. And I think that brings up a good point. Like progressive overload, when we talk about that, it doesn't always have to be weights. Sometimes it's
Right.
better form. Sometimes it's
Mm-hmm.
getting through 2 extra reps. Maybe that's an
Yep.
episode we can dive into progressive overload as a whole and the principle of it and how you guys can implement it and build your programs based off of progressive overload. Let us know if that's something you guys would be interested in. I know that would
Yeah.
be something we would love to give you guys if that would be beneficial. But
Yeah.
another thing that I feel like we cannot overlook outside of the aesthetics of everything is the literal life-saving and life-enhancing of strength training and
Yeah.
muscle mass as women. Sure, right now it feels like it doesn't really matter, but we talk about it all the time, Rachel, how that instant gratification, letting go of that instant gratification in order to think about our future selves.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't have motivation to go to the gym today, but I know that in my future, I'm going to be thankful that I committed to the bit of the gym more often than not. Um, once we're 30, 35 as women, we've really laid the base. It's not that things can't change or get better, but that's when you really want to have your foundation. And that's not, again, not to say that if you don't fall within that, then, you're doomed. You're definitely not. Better late than never. But
Right.
as women, it's so, so important that we have muscle mass in terms of good quality of life throughout life.
Like, couldn't have said it better myself. And, it's funny, I was actually talking with Kaylin the other day. I was looking at a study. They did a study on, like, the lifespan of certain people and how physically fit they became by age, like, 35, between 35 and 40, and then what happened after that as they got older into the more geriatric age range. And basically what the study showed was that you have you have your ceiling, right? And you can always raise the ceiling around that 35 to 40 range of how physically fit you are, how healthy you are, how much muscle mass you have, all the things in wellness. You have a ceiling that you can raise and raise and raise up until that time frame. Now, after that time frame, which again, like you said, Holly, you're not doomed if you're not at the peak that you want to be by that age, but just taking into consideration that we inevitably do deteriorate as we get older, right? You want that ceiling to be as high as possible by age 35 to 40, because after that, the course of nature, the deterioration that does inevitably happen with age is going to happen. And so it is going to be a little bit harder for you to put on muscle mass as you age. It's going to be a little bit harder for you to you know, accomplish a lot of the things because of that natural deterioration. So, what better time than now to really, lock in and raise that raise that ceiling as much as we can so that even though there is that natural decline with age, we're still levels and levels above health-wise. And not even to mention as women, our increased risk of osteoporosis, with the number one combative factor to getting osteoporosis is muscle mass, weight training.
Yep.
So they're all the reasons that you should listen to us. But here's, this is just a few.
Yeah, if there's like 3 takeaways, I would want this from our whole existence as a podcast, this would be like in the top 3 for sure.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
maybe that's like a whole episode a little bit. I don't feel like I am an expert on, postmenopausal women, but I do feel like I have a pretty solid foundation for sure
Yeah.
of knowledge and whatnot. Not that I think most of our audience is there. And at the same time, always say it, knowledge is power. And if you know what it's going to be like a little bit later on, it also helps with the here and the now.
Absolutely.
But I think any other thoughts as far as like toning or bulking go that you want to like contribute to the combo today, Rachel?
I think we kind of said it all, but I'll just reiterate that you can't tone if there's no muscle to tone. So we've got to strength train, ladies.
Oh. And another thing, the bulky subject, you've also got to be in a calorie surplus in order to put on as much muscle as it's going to take to get bulky. And by nature, we as women are probably under eating because of what society has always drilled in our heads.
Mhm.
Um, so, that even makes it one step harder for us to put on muscle and achieve that like more bulky look. So
Right.
there's that.
Yeah. Very
But
true.
now that we've kind of, wrapped up and put a bow on the toning and the bulkiness of it all, we want to talk about group fitness, what our thoughts are. And the reason we want to talk about group fitness while also talking about toning specifically is because, like I said earlier, a lot of group fitness is marketed towards toning and, being in certain cardio zones and calorie deficits and things like that. And we just feel like it's a good time to just touch on a little bit of our thoughts on pros and cons of group fitness. Again, this conversation is never to tell you that you're wrong if you're doing group fitness or if that's your favorite modality of exercise. Any movement is good movement, if you're asking me. If that's what it takes to get you to move your body consistently, be in the group fitness class, and also maybe take these things into consideration that we're about to jump into.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely want to, preface this conversation with, just echoing what you said. Any movement is good movement. I think at the end of the day, bare minimum, we should be moving our bodies as much as possible. We should be getting our steps in. We should be moving, sweating, raising our heart rate. Those things are the nitty gritty, really important things that we should be doing. So, you know, take what we're saying, also knowing that we support movement. But additionally, onto that, we're also going to really support and really push muscle mass, strength training, resistance training, just because we know how it's affected our lives, we know how it's affected our bodies, and we know what the studies show.
Do you want to open us up, Rachel, with some initial? That's like additional and initial. I love it. I love it, actually.
We should create it. Okay, yes.
You heard it here first on Cut the BS, initial. Any initial first thoughts on group fitness that we can dive into, Rachel?
Yeah, for sure. So obviously my background is primarily in, strength training, resistance training. I have been diving a little bit more into, classes, group fitness, not as my sole source of exercise, but just as kind of like a fun social thing for me to do, right? I'm a social butterfly. You've heard it here before that I am a social butterfly. I'm very extroverted. And so, like, I'll go with a girlfriend to a Pilates class and we have a grand old time. And sometimes, dare I say it, some muscles are targeted that maybe I don't necessarily do a lot of in my normal routine. And I do feel a little bit next couple days. But again, we're gonna end up going right back to the fact of the matter, which is it progressive overload? A lot of times it isn't. Um, and I know that we're also gonna talk on the fact that the classes are different every week, right? The classes, let's say you go twice a week, once a week, 3 times a week even. The classes are always different. And while that can bring something new and exciting, and that can bring, some fresh vibes, unfortunately, when it comes to strength training, when it comes to muscle growth, when it comes to resistance training, you gotta do the same stuff for about 4 to 6 weeks, right? Repetition is key. We have to let the muscle know what we're doing so that that muscle can adapt. We need to progressive overload within those 4 to 6 weeks, doing the same exercises. If we only do one exercise once a month, our muscles learn nothing. So we have to do it consistently so that our muscles can learn, adapt, grow. Then we move on to something different. And while it does feel monotonous, coming from someone who does it that way, it's necessary to get us to the goal of muscle growth and get us to the goal of increasing our strength as well.
And another thing kind of on that same line is I think in my experience from what I've heard and from the few more strength-based classes I have been in, which admittedly has not been a lot, the most group fitness-based things I have done is Pilates. Um, but the few classes I have been in and heard from clients talking about, there's not just lack of structure and progressive overload week to week, there's also lack of accountability to pick up a weight that is challenging you. And with that, I'll also say I think the structure of group fitness makes it hard to progressively overload because oftentimes you're working for a minute, 60 seconds, 30 seconds, 45 seconds. And so you might be able to get 20 reps, you might be able to get 10 reps. And so there's that lack of accountability to progress in your weight, especially this is one of my biggest icks about group fitness is single leg or single arm exercises. if you're jumping from one to the next with minimal break in between and you're going for 45 seconds on each leg, that second leg, because you haven't rested, and more often than not, you're doing your weaker leg second, just I think that's just how it works. You're going to end up doing less, and that's not helping the muscle imbalance that is already going on.
Right.
So that's another thing of mine is like it lacks that accountability of being able to progress
Mhm.
because you're not doing targeted reps. You're more often than not going for time, as well
Yeah.
as sure, some instructors are, telling you really get up there and like challenge yourself and hyping you up, but can they really be telling you, oh, you could go up another 5, 10 pounds? Also, maybe that's not feasible to go grab another 5 to 10 pounds in the middle of the class, depending on the class.
Right. And, I'm speaking to, like, I teach group fitness. So I, in my day job, I teach group fitness to employees and, the way that it's structured is it can't really be set up like a traditional strength training session. Like it just can't, especially when you've got multiple people. As an instructor, I'm looking at minimum 10 people, if not more, making sure that they're on the correct exercise, trying my best to kind of look and quickly critique form. I'm not really paying attention to how much weight you're doing. I'm leaving that
Yeah.
responsibility up to you to challenge yourself. And, I think that again, as an instructor from an instructor mindset, we want to keep the class fresh. We want to keep it fun. We want, you know, I know that with my specific classes, we do repeat a lot of the same things because I also have that trainer mindset of I want them to, to progress in this exercise, even though, and I tell them like, this might seem a little monotonous, but I don't want to constantly confuse your muscles. I want your muscles to get better at this. And so, but again, I still leave it up to them, like, let's grab a heavier weight for this exercise than we did last week, While there are ways to quote unquote progress or progressive overload in a class, it's not the common thing that happens. It's really just I'm going to manage these 10 to 50 people as best I can while keeping the class fun, fresh, and vibey.
Yeah, for sure. And, I don't know how you run your classes, but again, I know a lot of group fitness, not the yoga and the Pilates of it all, is like cardio heavy as well. So
Mhm.
sometimes
Yep.
it's more cardio, sometimes it's you're working in intervals of exercises. Yes, you're doing some resistance based stuff, but
Mhm.
you're still doing it for again like a time frame and then you're
Yep.
resting for 30 seconds, back into another thing for 45 seconds. So
Mhm.
it's also really high intensity. And that
Yeah.
to me brings up another I don't like to say the word issue, but issue is coming to my mind right now.
Mhm.
Where if you're doing high intensity exercise like that 4 to 5 times a week and under fueling yourself and going to the class on a cup of coffee, maybe not the best thing for us. Maybe not,
Maybe not.
especially if your goal is to lose fat, might not be the best solution.
Maybe we need to be fueled, Maybe we need
Crazy
to take
concept.
in some carbs. Don't get us started on that. Yeah, and just to kind of note towards your point of, like, most classes are time-based, they have to be. They have to be time-based,
Right.
and it does bring up that kind of um flaw. I don't wanna say flaw, but flaw,
Yeah.
in the structure because if I don't do it if I or whoever's instructing doesn't do it in a time base, for 1, their class is gonna run long, for 2,
Right.
everyone's gonna be on a different rep, and for 3, the flow doesn't flow very organized, in a class
Right.
setting, and so while there is a reason that they do it, it doesn't make a lot of sense for the participant if they're not seeing that consistency of progressive overload as time goes on.
For sure. So before we jump into maybe some of the things that we see as advantages to group fitness, I maybe want to talk about just before we, again, to separate all the hate. what is maybe a schedule that you would be like, this is a good mix of a little bit of group fitness, a little bit of doing it on your own? Again, I know it's going to vary person to person, but like, what's a
Yeah.
schedule you've found for yourself, Rachel, with your little bit of dabbling in group fitness,
Mm,
where you can do a little bit of the group fitness, but you can also still reap the benefits of the traditional progressive overload strength training?
absolutely. I mean, again, this answer is gonna produce more activity. So I guess each to their own. I lift 2 to 3 days a week. That is my schedule. That's what I stick to. If I'm playing now, also keep in mind I also play beach volleyball, which is a lot of cardio, a lot required for my body. Depending on how much volleyball I play will determine if I'm lifting 2 or 3 days that week. So I've got two lifts. They're both full body that are like my solid, I must do these every week. That third one is we're going to try really hard to do this, but if I'm playing 4 other days, it's not wise for me to do that because Lord knows I'm not doing all the things that would require for me to maintain that consistently.
Right.
So, again, it's going to depend on my schedule. Usually, what I do personally is I pick 1 or 2 days. Now, also keep in mind that we do need active rest days. Sundays are usually my active rest days. I don't really do anything on Sundays. But like on a Friday morning, I might get up early, suffer with a bad sleep score, and go to Pilates because it's fun. um, but I'm still getting those two minimum, if not 3 days of strength training in. And then, volleyball usually takes precedence over classes because I enjoy it more. So there are going to be weeks where I don't attend a class, but then if I have like a Saturday morning where I'm not playing volleyball and I can go with a friend to a Pilates class, then I'll do that. If I'm not playing volleyball on Friday morning, I'll, maybe do the same thing. It just kind of depends. I usually honestly just fill it in on days that I want to be active, I want to sweat, I want to raise my heart rate. Um, but I don't want to lift, or my lifting's been done for the week. So it's really a supplemental thing, mostly for fun. Um, it's definitely not like I'm fitting everything else around my classes because
Hmm.
it's not the case.
Yeah. More of like a social thing for you more than a mm, exercise thing.
Absolutely. And I will say, as someone who hates doing core exercises, because I argue that I'm using my core in every exercise I do, um, Pilates has been really good for my core. Because a lot of the core is a little bit different than some other muscle groups, right? The core can be worked every single day. It doesn't need a rest day like some of our larger muscle groups, like our legs or, chest or back or arms, things like that. So it has been really good for my core because they make me do so many things to balance and plank and like do all these things. So it's been really good for that. And again, it supplements the core exercises that I don't feel like doing when I'm at the gym.
Yeah. I think that's like such a good point. That's one of the things that I love about group fitness is
Mhm.
that accountability piece. For
Yeah.
me, it's the accountability of like, oh, I've paid for the class, I've got to go. And I know that's the
Right.
case for a lot of the clients I talk to. For you, it's the
Hmm.
accountability of core work. There's some
Yeah.
sense of accountability in group fitness for sure. Maybe it's the accountability of being around others. So you do push yourself, even if it's
Yeah.
not, what we want to see in terms of progressive overload, you're still pushing yourself to some degree. So I think that's one of the things that I definitely do appreciate and value from group fitness is that level
Yeah.
of accountability. And there's so many different ways it can hold you accountable.
Yeah. And honestly, I think too, like for someone just starting out, obviously I would recommend doing beginner classes. But if this is the avenue you take starting out, let's say that you've never been active a day in your life and this is where you want to start, I'm okay with that. Obviously, I would always encourage you to incorporate strength training. But sometimes if you need that accountability starting out to build the habit of being active, I'm okay with it. Make sure
For
that we
sure.
add some strength training in soon, but if we need it to start the habit of being active, then
Agreed. That's something I
I'm
was
not
just
gonna hate.
thinking. Like, if you're trying to become a morning person, maybe that accountability of, oh, I'm going to sign up for a 6 a.m. class and you're out money if you don't show up. That's a great way to become a morning person, for, in my opinion. Again, this is Holly Ramsey. I'm not wasting no damn dollars.
Yes, yes. The accountability to get up is definitely will get you up, you know? Whether it's the accountability of a class, or if you're like me, it's the accountability of a group chat full of older women that will yell at you if you bail for volleyball.
Yeah. Not worth it. Not worth
Not worth
missing.
not worth it. Not worth the back and forth.
Yeah. Something else I can appreciate about group fitness is definitely for those who make a lot of decisions in their day to day life. Hello, I think that's everyone, especially those of us, working and pursuing our own little side passions. There's a lot of decision making going on. And at least you're being told what to do, how to do it, how long to do it for 45 minutes out
Mhm.
of the day. You don't got to think, you just got to do. And
Yeah.
on the flip side of that, I will say invest in a program, write your own program. There's other alternatives, but I do think that for that aspect, it can be really great. One less decision to make.
Ugh. That's honestly one of my favorite parts about it, is because I don't have to think. My brain gets tired, you know? I make programs for people all week. I go to work. I do people's body stats and, calculate all kinds of things for them and take them through workouts. I'm like, oh, I need a break. So that's been really nice. But then when it comes to a program, invest in a program, like you said, Holly, or just make your husband do it like I did. He just wrote me a program and he sent it to me today. I'm really excited because I told him, I was like, I can't write my own program.
Yeah,
I overthink everything. It takes me too long to write it. Just do it. Challenge me. I'll give you 6 months to train me however you see fit, which was a really big thing for me to just give him, you know? And I
yeah.
do not hate the program. I read through it today.
I'm intrigued. Let us know if we should force Rachel to make this a little social media series. Also, disclaimer,
Yes,
your husband can only write your program if he is has knowledge in the field. Okay? Just
right.
because
Yes.
he goes to the gym does not mean he should be writing you a program. Okay?
Right.
Caveat
Yes,
or
that
caveat
is a
for
pet
sure.
peeve for Miss Holly. Pet peeve for Miss Holly. Yes, my husband is a certified personal trainer and has a lot of the same knowledge and background as myself. Otherwise, I would definitely not trust him to write my program. But because he knows me and he thinks similar to me from a training perspective, I'm okay with it.
For sure. I'm excited. I'm excited to check back in. Either way, the
Yeah,
pod will be getting updates. The social media part might take
absolutely.
more convincing, but the
Absolutely.
podcast deserves updates.
I did all of my body stats today, all of my circumference measurements, lean mass, fat mass, all of that. And so we know where we're starting, and then we'll do it again monthly and see how Mr. Carson creates his ideal wife, I guess.
Ideal life is crazy. So you're saying you hate X, Y, and Z about me.
You're
Perfect.
right. Honestly, he's such a brave man because every time I go to the gym when I'm doing something that he's assigned me to do that I hate, he will be hearing about it.
Oh, for sure. For
Because he
sure.
put in there Stairmaster, he put in parentheses, yes, the Stairmaster. I'm like, oh, so now you think I need to breathe heavy.
Yeah. I'm dead. He said they're not an incline walk, not a row machine. It will be the Stairmaster.
And he put things in parentheses because he knows that I would give attitude about it.
And that's on having a husband who knows you. Why don't you like the
Right.
Stairmaster?
I like the Stairmaster. It's not something well, first of all, he put it
I'd
just
hope to God
insane.
not after a leg day. He doesn't hate you that much. There's no
Well,
way. If so, he will
keep
be
in mind,
hearing from your lawyers, aka me.
right, right. No, let's see what he said.
Mhm.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm not talking to you,
Mind
Siri.
your own
I said,
business.
right? She said, she yelled. Mm-hmm. He said, go to stairs, 1 minute on, 1 minute off, 5 sets. Parentheses, yes, the Stairmaster.
Interesting. I've never seen stairs programmed like that. You're gonna have to keep us updated.
Well, I tend to, so I do circuit style training, but it's just circuits that aren't timed, right? So normally in circuits, you do like timed exercises. Obviously, we're not really big fans of that. Um, we being
Read
you
the
and
whole
I,
episode.
because, right. But it is a circuit in which I do 4 rounds of exercise, small break, exercise, small break, exercise, small break, exercise, and then we do it all again like 3 or 4 times. So he's adding in a cardio piece to keep my heart rate high for that circuit. And it will do that.
It will.
It will.
R.I.P. Note to
R.I.P.
self,
me.
never ask Kaylin to ever make me a program. Listen, I wouldn't even ask TJ to make me a program.
Yeah.
So
I used to
you're
say
a
I'm
brave
not
soul.
doing that when he would write something that I didn't like. But I told him, I promised him I'd give him 6 months. But I will complain.
Oh, for sure. That's your right as the wife.
You said it.
All right. Anything else you feel like group fitness wise that you love, that you hate, that you want to touch on?
I mean, we've kind of touched on a lot of things. The high intensity of it, while high intensity does have its benefits, there's a time and a place. And if you're constantly doing high intensity, I don't think that it's going to yield the results that we promote, which is, to increase muscle mass and to promote that progressive overload. Because if you're completely gassed, you don't have any energy in the tank, you can't progressively overload efficiently because you don't have any gas in the tank. And if you're going to class with only having your coffee or your black coffee or whatever it is, or on an empty stomach, you're definitely not going to have enough gas in the tank to do an efficient and effective progressive overload. So, and with the high intensity of it all, we know, and I fall victim to this as well. So I'm there with you. I have a love-hate relationship with being sore, right? You hate it because it's like, "Oh, I'm sore," but you love it because 'cause you're like, "I did something. I was successful. I made the muscles work, and now they're sore." And while we've said this before in the podcast, soreness is not always an indicator of a good workout. And also, as we mentioned earlier in this episode, your muscles need to adapt and grow. So if you're constantly being sore, that tells me it's constantly adapting to different things and it's not really going to find a consistent pattern of adapting to a certain exercise or a certain movement.
Yeah. And with that, like you said, like going underfueled. And if you're consistently underfueled, soreness is only going to be heightened.
Yeah. Yeah. So we love soreness. It's a good indicator that our muscles are doing something, but it is not always a good indicator of a workout. And to be honest, even in like our structured programs, by weeks 4 to 6, we'll say, of doing those same exercises and progressively overloading them, you shouldn't be as sore,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because your muscle is adapting, learning, growing.
Okay, so maybe in the spirit of Miss Valentine's Day just having passed, what are some things that you're currently loving? When you hear the word love, this is in your head right now.
Yes. Not them all being food related. She will. I would say things that I'm currently loving right now: extra dark chocolate with a little bit of sea salt caramel.
Oh.
Yummy. It's honestly my Achilles heel, and I have to practice a lot of self-control to A, not buy it in the store too often, and B, to just be mindful when I am consuming it that I don't consume the whole bar. It's happened a time or two. And then obviously we love a good coffee or matcha drink. That's like, sometimes I go to bed And I think to myself, I can't wait to have coffee in the morning, or I can't wait to have matcha in the morning. Like, what are some things that you have currently been loving? Tell me.
Loving. Like you said, going to bed, thinking about coffee. Yeah, that's literally my life. Drip coffee. So last year for a wedding present, we got one of the like Nespresso machines. And don't get me wrong, I love it. But my God, I underestimated how expensive those machines are when you love to have more than a cup a day.
Yes,
So
girl.
recently, I got myself on Facebook Marketplace, got myself a drip coffee pot. And now I have drip coffee every morning that I've really been loving. Also
Okay.
love like the aesthetic of the drip coffee, like the sound. Oh my gosh. Just takes me back to childhood. Also, on top of that, I have been loving the Chobani Valentine's Day limited edition creamers, the dark chocolate strawberry and raspberry rose.
Uh, hold up.
Yep.
Put it in reverse. They have a raspberry rose creamer with Chobani.
Yes.
I am running to Publix.
I was going to say, I did find it in Target. I've
Okay.
been looking all over for both of these. The raspberry rose, so good. Dark chocolate strawberry, so good. But it's a little too sweet for me. It's
Okay.
not like an everyday thing, but I think as a cold foam on a matcha,
Stop it.
bury me with
Stop
that.
it.
Okay? Bury me with that.
Bury me with the matcha and the cold foam. Yes,
Exactly.
I will definitely. First of all, we know that Holly Ramsey has been scouring the streets of Lexington looking for that creamer. Okay, and Ray Ray is about to scour the streets of South Florida to look for that creamer because I now need it.
You do. I'll even send you
If
a
there's
picture so you know exactly what you're looking for.
Yes, and if there's one thing we know about Miss Rachel, not the TV character, is that she loves herself some raspberry. Okay, raspberries, raspberry rose poppy, soon to be
True.
raspberry rose Chobani coffee creamer. We love the raspberries.
She will give us a live taste test on Instagram. Don't worry, chat.
Oh,
I love that I'm
I will.
assigning you so many Instagram things
You are so
this
many
podcast.
things.
Listen, little social media director over here. What can I say? You will do
You're
it
doing
and you will
great.
do it now.
Oh.
Now is in as soon as you can find it.
Right. Running now.
Yeah. But not running, in the car running, but parking in the back of the
Right.
parking lot.
To get my steps because
To get your
I
steps.
am disgustingly low today and I'm about to go on a walk right after this because
Yeah.
my goal is. Oh, also, speaking of Mr. Carson, he puts at the end of every workout. Or no, he put this at the end of day 1. By the way, get 8 to 10,000 steps daily goal, no exceptions. Why is he yelling?
By the way, no exceptions. Both of those were a bit aggressive. You could have used
So
one
aggressive.
or the other or none.
He might as well
a
have
matter of
yelled.
fact, none.
Right. He might as well have yelled at me. Screamed.
Yeah, you deserve a steak dinner. That's for sure. Every
Right.
night of the week.
Yep. Right. And trim the fat off because I don't like that.
Yes, same. Yeah. Ugh. No, thank you. Last thing I have been absolutely loving is Vitamask lip mask. They're like $5.
Okay.
You can get them at Walmart. I've seen them at Target. I think I saw them the other day when I was there getting the creamers. So good. I like it better than my Summer Fridays.
Oh.
I don't know if you're a Summer
You will
Fridays
send me
girl.
all the links. I need all the links.
Absolutely. Too bad I can't make.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching, if any gentlemen are watching, that wraps up today's episode on toning. Is it a myth? Is it not? We talked about it. And also group fit. Should you do it? Should you not? Should we sprinkle it? Let us know Are you someone that participates in group fitness? If so, are you someone who participates in strength and resistance training as well? And catch us next time on Cut the BS.
Bye, XOXO.
Gossip Girl. And that's a wrap on this episode of Cut the BS with Holly and Rachel. If today gave you a dose of clarity, confidence, or even just a good laugh, we've done our job.
Don't forget, wellness isn't about doing more. It's about doing what actually works for you. So take what hit home, leave the rest, and keep showing up as your strongest, realest self.
Be sure to follow, rate, and share this episode with someone who's ready to cut the BS and live with more intention. Until next time.